No two people in the world are the same. No two people have exactly the same personality traits, desires, and body as another. No two people are composed of exactly the same configuration of organic molecules as another. Each person is inherently unique, almost a miracle, an unrepeatable combination of elements that exists only once in the world, and yet people usually behave as if the opposite were true, as if they were not unique at all, as if they were the same as everyone else. Experience tells us that most people prefer not to rise up to their true nature, to that which makes them truly them, and instead prefer to cloak themselves in conventionality, not because they are afraid of what others might think of them as is usually judged, but rather because they are lazy. It is simply too inconvenient to be completely honest and naked in front of others and oneself. So most people settle for thinking and acting like members of the herd, hiding behind popular prejudices and opinions, and ending up looking more like factory products than individuals. For a philosopher, this is a disappointing sight. In his 1873 essay Schopenhauer as Educator, Friedrich Nietzsche writes, "There exists no more repulsive and desolate creature in the world than the man who has evaded his genius and who now looks furtively to left and right, behind him and all about him. In the end, such a man becomes impossible to get hold of, since he is wholly exterior, without kernel, a tattered, painted bag of clothes, a decked-out ghost that cannot inspire even fear, and certainly not pity." For Nietzsche, to see an individual give up their natural inclinations and instead, out of convenience, succumb to the pressures of society that will eventually make them forget who they are and make them into something they are not, is a terrible waste of potential. Because Nietzsche believes that each of us bears a protective uniqueness within him as the core of his being, and when he becomes aware of it, there appears around him a strange penumbra, which is the mark of his singularity. This is what happens when one finds oneself, as is sometimes said. Finding oneself means realizing and accepting one's real character, discovering one's true vocation. But to achieve this, one must first overcome the laziness that drove them into forgetting themselves in the first place. As Nietzsche writes, "The man who does not wish to belong to the mass needs only to cease taking himself easily. Let him follow his conscience, which calls to him, 'Be yourself. All you are now doing, thinking, desiring is not you yourself.'" But how does one do that? Or, as Nietzsche asks, how can we find ourselves again? How can man know himself? He is a thing dark and veiled, and if the hair has 7 skins, man can slough off 70 times 7 and still not be able to say, "This is really you. This is no longer outer shell." Although finding and knowing our true selves seems like an almost impossible task, Nietzsche, nevertheless, gives us a clue as to how we could peer under the 77 skins that make up the outer shell of our ego and get in touch with our inner natural self. He writes, "Let the youthful soul look back on life with the question, what have you truly loved up to now? What has drawn your soul aloft? What has mastered it, and at the same time blessed it? Set up these revered objects before you, and perhaps their nature and their sequence will give you a law, the fundamental law of your own true self. Compare these objects one with another, see how one completes, expands, surpasses, transfigures another, how they constitute a stepladder upon which you have clambered up to yourself as you are now. For your true nature lies not concealed deep within you, but immeasurably high above you, or at least above that which you usually take yourself to be." Nietzsche believes that what one truly loves is an undeniable reflection of one's true inner nature, because in this love, one finds the answers to one's real personal needs, and not those one has unwillingly incorporated from his surroundings. Each person's nature seeks to find the optimal conditions for its expression, and what one instinctively feels one truly loves offers precisely those conditions, as Nietzsche believes. One's true nature is therefore not something one merely needs to discover and become aware of, but rather something one needs to become or rise up to, because it is not something concealed deep within us, but rather something immeasurably high above us, as Nietzsche says. To find ourselves, Nietzsche advises us to stop following the herd, as he says, and to ask ourselves what we truly love. By asking ourselves what we truly love, we are realizing what our true needs are, and we are separating them from pseudo-needs that we have been conditioned by society to have. In this way, we are protecting our individuality from being drowned in conformism and following the voice of our conscience, telling us to act in accordance with our real nature and not in accordance with popular prejudice. Only that way can we avoid becoming factory products and become individuals instead. Only that way can we give form and expression to the productive uniqueness that Nietzsche believes resides within us as the core of our being.